everybody. Welcome to Basically the Best. I'm Matthew Wallace Wilden here with Joe Bono, and we are about to do our first match walkthrough for you guys. We entered the queue for a couple of minutes, and we won the dice roll, and here we are. We picked to play, is that correct?
Yeah, we did choose to play first. We wanted to do that because we generally you want to be the first person that hits a particular mana drop each game. So like it's kind of important to be it's slightly better to be the first person that hits the 5, the 6, the 7, and the 8, and have that incremental advantage of having the better creatures. What you're going to see, though, is that our opponent is going to be the one with the first creature on the board.
Right, so they're going to play the first creature, but it's not going to be a 3-drop or a 4-drop. What are they going to play? Yeah. How's this going to play out?
So what's going to happen is we're both going to play lands on our first turn and pass. On his second turn, on our second turn, we're going to play a land and we're going to pass. On his second turn, he's probably going to play a land and play a 2-drop.
That's because he got to draw.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in Momir, it's very important to get to the 8 drops. The 8 drops are some of the most powerful creatures in Magic, and it's a drop level that you can get to without having to skip a whole lot of earlier creatures. Like if you could get to 11s consistently and not die before then, that'd be pretty awesome.
So 8's where it's at. That's the butter.
Good,
that's the bread and butter of this format. So I think that's pretty good. Let's move on to our next big decision. Are you going to mulligan this hand? It's only got 1 swamp, but it's got those precious mountains that we talked about before.
Yeah. So you never mulligan any hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's
so
get this going.
We're going to keep this one. So we're going to say no. We don't want to mulligan 6 cards. And we're going to go ahead and minimize this guy's avatar. And we're going to hit a mountain, and we're going to F6 and say hi to Dragonite. And our opponent goes ahead and plays land like we expected and passes, and we're going to go ahead and take over the turn. And again, we're just going to play a mountain, and we're going to pass. This way, by hitting the 3-drop, we're going to guarantee that we get to the 8-drop.
Right. And I notice you're leading with mountains. That's about the island or the land walk ability that we talked about previously, right? You don't want to lead with a swamp. Right,
yeah,
is that correct?
Yeah, so there are actually some very scary swamp walkers and forest walkers and island walkers. And I really don't like to have a swamp on the battlefield until my opponent has made at least their 4-drop and preferably their 5-drop. Whereas, like I said, the only mountain walker you really worry about is Rock Badger. And there are a lot of abilities that require red mana that you want to activate multiple times. Like fire breathing abilities or vampiric dragon.
Sounds good.
So having a lot of mountains is a good thing.
All right.
Most of the other land types, you're happy to have just like one of that particular land.
All right, and see he got this lovely 3/3 guy.
Yeah. So our opponent got Sangrophage, which is actually not that great for him because he's going to be racing for 1 damage essentially with Sangrophage. And if we get any sort of decent creature, we're going to be pretty happy racing with him and racing back for more mana. So we get Kithkin Healer, which is actually pretty good for us. Creatures that have combat abilities that mess up your opponent's ability to block are pretty nice. And we can, now once we untap with it, we can actually just make the Sangrophage be a lose 2 life for both players until we get a bigger creature or something like that.
Sounds
so
good.
That's pretty sweet for us.
All right, let's pass the turn back.
Go ahead and pass back. So we're just going to F6 through our opponent's turn. And he's going to take some damage, and if he's smart, he'll play a land and then Momir, but he doesn't. The reason why you want to do that is, like, you might hit Ball Lightning, you might hit some creature with haste.
Hasty guys.
At every drop, so they're the creatures that you would want to play after combat are generally creatures with Bloodthirst. Creatures you want to play before combat are generally creatures with haste. At every drop level, there are more haste creatures than Bloodthirst creatures.
That's just math.
It is math. So we're definitely not going to block here. We're going to take our 3. He's going to make a 3-drop and pass the turn, and we'll see how good his is.
So I notice in a previous game I was playing, late turns went just like this. Played his third land, passed on back to me. What was that all about?
So there's some people that want to hit nines. There's generally people that want to hit nines. They're very enamored with the idea of getting Blazing Archon, which is a Ravnica rare. It's a 5/6 flyer that says creatures can't attack you. And so they think that that's a really awesome card that is going to win them the game. And it turns out that like the nines other than Blazing Archon are not that impressive, and eights are generally better.
I see.
And you actually get more outs with the eights to almost any problem card. So you're better off just sticking at eights. But sometimes people skip a 3 or skip some other number to try to get up to nines. The other thing that some people are afraid of hitting a bad 3, and there is one really awful 3, and that's
how bad is the worst 3?
Yeah. So Countryside Crusher is the worst 3, and he basically reads 3/3 giant. On your next draw step, you lose the game.
Sounds pretty bad.
So we got 1/4 here, which is pretty sweet. We can block Sangerphage all day. We got this Kithkin healer, so we're in good defensive position. And generally, like when you're on the play, you end up being a little bit on the defense because your opponent gets the first creature, but then eventually your quality beats them because you're getting the drops first. And so we're in a pretty sweet situation right here where we got good blockers. We got a guy that's going to mess up their combat math. He's got this rock egg, so we can't be very aggressive, but I'm okay not being aggressive and being kind of on the defensive.
Okay.
So he gets a Dothy Mind Ripper. This is 2/1 with Shadow. Shadow creatures are pretty good because they're basically unblockable. And even worse, this is a card that's going to make us discard some cards.
This looks bad for us.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to play a land and we're going to pass the turn. Because if he does Mind Rip us, we want to be able to hit our future drops.
Yeah, that's a rough one right there.
Yeah. Now we could have attacked with our guys and gotten in for 1 damage, but then he'd be able to Sangerphage us back.
Yeah,
which is not awesome when he's got the 2/1 Shadow guy. So again, we're just F6ing through his turn. He's wisely choosing not to take damage from Sangerphage. We kind of wish that he didn't have the option of getting it tapped. We'll see here if he wants to get in damage or he wants to make us discard cards.
The correct thing here is to just blow away our hand, right?
Yeah, probably. So what we're doing right now is like he knows that we're holding off. See, actually, we'll put that on pause for a second. This is another reason why you always play a creature beforehand. He played Scourge Devil. His guys got +1/+0 until end of turn, but he played it after combat, and so he missed out on a damage essentially by doing that. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and play an island. So there is a scary. Oops. Actually, sorry. I went a little bit on autopilot, and I was not following through on our previous plan of skipping drops for the Dothy Mind Ripper. We're again fine with him having a Scourge Devil. We can block that, and we basically want to make sure that we really don't get screwed over in drops with the Dothy Mind Ripper. And we're also we're gonna be fine making a drop next turn if we have to block his guy. But so he lets the Sangerphage get tapped. We can block the Scourge Devil. So he's the Mind Ripper is putting pressure on us, but his other drops aren't. And it looks like he finally wised up and he's playing a creature before combat. Let's see if it's something actually scary. So Skyward Eye Prophets is actually a pretty good drop because it lets you hit additional land drops. So he's not going to have to stop at 8. He will probably get to 11, which is pretty bad for us.
Right.
And who knows, maybe he'll get to 15 and get Emrakul on us, which would be pretty awful. So again, he gets in for 2. And
let's see if he opts here to
yeah,
blow our hand
he
away.
doesn't opt to blow our hand away, which is fine. So at this point, I think on our turn, we're going to go ahead and play a land and actually make a drop. Doing that, like he can get rid of our hand, but we kind of actually need another creature to block his 3/3s, since he now has up to 3 of them, and he's going to start getting in for damage. And we actually kind of would like him to kill the Dothy Mind Ripper to get our last 3 cards at this point, because we don't want his clock to be on. We don't want him having that forever. And this is kind of the last chance we have to get him to blow it. So we're gonna go ahead.
Well, let's hope for a sweet 7 and get back in this
hope
thing.
for a sweet 7, like Phage the Untouchable.
Phage would be great 7.
Yeah.
Get us to game 2.
Right away to game 2.
For those of you who don't know, Phage the Untouchable is a 7. It's like 5 and 2 black. If you don't play Phage from your hand, when it enters the battlefield, you lose the game.
Yeah.
So pretty bad 7 drop.
Yeah. So we got a pretty good 7 drop here. We got 3/5, and it's got some abilities, but it's a 3/5 flyer, which is what's important. So we're gonna go ahead and F6, and we're not gonna we're not gonna suicide any of our guys into his guys, and we're gonna see what he does.
Yeah, he's got some decisions here.
Yeah. So I imagine his play is going to be to Mind Rip us, make us discard these cards, and not attack with the Prophets or the Devil. And so he's actually accelerating this way with the Prophets. He gets on tap land into play. So he's going to get to his 8 drop. He gets to go directly from 6 to 8, which again is not great for us. And the prospect of facing down 11 drops is pretty scary. So 11s are rough because there are only 6 11s. One of them is an 8/8 flyer. One of them is an 11/11 trample, and 2 of them are Eldrazi.
Yeah.
So not that great. Oh, and Darksteel Colossus. Darksteel Colossus is also pretty good. So our opponent hit a pretty good 8. Hellkite Overlord is pretty awesome. He's bigger than pretty much everything. He is very hasty. And again, you can see the value of having red mana because of these activated abilities. So he's gonna beat us for 10, and we're gonna be dead on board unless we get something. Oh, and you know what? We've been forgetting to use Kithkin Healer this whole time. That's pretty awful. So we've taken a lot of damage that we shouldn't, and that's probably because we're terrible Magic players, and we're gonna choose.
I mean,
to go ahead
that's
and
been